Good afternoon, Shannon Morrison here. Another conversation with self-care and emotional wellness. I'm so excited to be here with you. I am watching the chat. So if you guys have comments, questions, if something resonates, put it in the chat below. If this is your first time seeing Shannon Morrison live here, I am here talking about self-care opportunities, regarding our emotional wellness or our emotional waves that we feel, and maybe where they come from and how we can reframe them. And so today's conversation is just that. I have coaching conversations in the morning, and something that was brought to my attention this morning really resonated with me, and that is how everything comes to us and through us, and then what happens next. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a beautiful conversation. And so the conversations was there's always a stimulus, there's always a thought, and then there's always a response, right? Something happens, there's an action, then we feel it in our body, and then there's a reaction or a response. And if you guys have followed me for a little bit, you know that I really feel that what happens in our generations above us really creates how we respond and even our thought patterns today. And so that thought pattern, like what it provokes, that thought pattern, like our experiences in our life, absolutely, right? What we're going through right now, what's happening in real time, the emotional havoc, the fear, let's just call it what it is. The fear of the unknown has been a ripple effect for the last 3 years, right? And it's not gone now. It's just a different fear. And this didn't just start with our generation, right? Our parents went through different phases in their life that has an effect on us because it's in their emotional DNA. Therefore, it's passed down to us. And so our cognitive ability, our programming, our DNA really matches what our ancestors went through as well. And so how we're reacting right now to the world around us most likely connects to how our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents also reacted to other things that scared them or created fear in their generations as well, whether that be war, whether it be plague, whether it be a virus, whether it be the stock market, whatever it may be. There's always something that hits us sideways, something that creates havoc and something that creates fear. And I think it's how we think about it, how we absorb it, how we feel it into our body is what creates the response. And we can absolutely sit in this, right? We can sit in this, and I have sat in these emotions, and as well as you guys have, right? Sat in the emotions of the fear and the unknown, and it just pulls our energy down. And sometimes it's not a bad thing that our energy gets pulled down and we get to sit for a minute, right? And we get to think about what's going on, think about what this is bringing out in us, what is underneath these feelings, whether it's we're in our head, whether we're not moving forward, whether we fell off the wagon of what our vision was and we forgot our path, right? I posted something this last week, and it really resonated with so many, and I'm so incredibly grateful because how I was going through life last week, and it was just because my path is different, it doesn't mean I am lost. And that really connects to the emotional state, right? There's so many people that are passionate humans that want to create change, want to shift into a new paradigm, want to shift into a new way of being, a new way of connecting, and a new way of reacting to other people, stimulus, the world as we know it, right? Creating a completely different new world. And I love that. And in doing that, in creating that shift, sometimes we get to be still and we get to be silent and we get to listen. And a long time ago, I came on here, and I think that in many of my conversations that I have spoken about, I felt like I was just different, right? As a kid, we're all probably in this community. And if you're following me, you probably felt a little different growing up. And I felt like I was just a third person in my life. Like I was viewing my life above and not really interacting in my life. I was allowing things to happen and to create whatever was there for me without any intention whatsoever, right? Because I felt like I didn't have control, which then really led me to trying to control absolutely everything, which led me into like lone wolfing and thinking that I had to do it all myself. And the emotional upheaval that I was feeling, no one else felt this, and I was alone, and blah, 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 right? That ripple effect landed me into being full of anxiety, not mentally stably well, right? And living a life of seclusion. And that's not what lifts my soul on fire. I love to be connected. I love collaborating. I love people. And so I got to shift that thought process, that stimulus, or how I thought of the stimulus, how I really, what is the word? Understood or deprogrammed all of it, right? And I don't know if you guys know, do you guys follow the Matrix at all? It might be kind of really out there, right? But I feel like sometimes we get to decode things, kind of like he looks at the screen on the computer screen, and it just came through, a piece of the show just came through, and it made sense to me when I was describing a little bit about how my daughter incorporates information, right? And sometimes there's a ton of information out there. And I feel like it's like all the code that's falling down the screen, right? They're falling down the computer screen. And as humans in the Matrix are like watching the screen, and they can see in the depths of the screen. And all of a sudden, if something's different or unique, or there's somebody there, they are like, oh crap, they're in trouble. And we get to find that out, right? So how do you decode all of this information that's coming at us and understand it in a logical way, or understand it and really dive into what's underneath before we act, right? How do we go against our programming? How do we go against what we learned, or our environment taught us, or our parents taught us, or the things that have happened in our life since we've been here on earth have taught us? How do we decode all of that, find out what's underneath that, and then respond? And that's today's conversation. Like that is a beautiful conversation, because it creates the 1% shift. It creates the reframe. It creates us to listen into our soul and actually being freaking connected to it, right? And thinking and feeling connected to it, actually listening, can be scary, because it's something completely unique and it's something completely different. And when we do something completely different, it makes our brain second guess everything. Maybe it makes our heart flutter, or maybe we're so stressed when we go to bed that we have heart palpitations. We have no idea what to do about it, right? So getting underneath to really feel into what is going on, and pouring into us what we need. Maybe it is silence. Maybe it is stillness. Maybe it is shifting that fear into love, right? Self-care isn't selfish, but we absolutely get to program or reprogram our thoughts, whether it's writing all of the normal thoughts or normal programming you have down, whether it's about your money stories, whether it's about what's going on in the world today, whether it's what's going on in your household, all of the things that are programmed into creating our life for us, right? The circle, or the history, right? Everybody knows that history repeats itself, and it will repeat itself more often if we are a little silly and we do the same things over and over again, thinking we're going to get a different outcome. So a little by little, as we go through life in this history, we get to reframe 1% shifting, right? We get to change a little bit at a time, because at a time, if we change a little bit, at the end of a year or 5 or 10 years, it's completely unique and a completely different code. So how do we, in a third person, sit in, feel in, listen in, and decode that message that maybe we were programmed for 50 years, right? Maybe it's 10 generations back, and this has affected your family for a long time, right? I just did a gem session on a beautiful human last week, and it was so many generations of women in their family felt the same way she did, right? Just like me. So many women in my generations felt the same way I did, right? A lack of control, trying to find control, grasping control, domestic violence, emotional instability, right? Completely dysregulated connection to money, right? All of these things are in my generational pool, in my programming, in my cognition, in my reticular activating system, in my brain, right? In my subconscious, it's everywhere. How do you shift that? You get to listen, you get to lean in, you get to reprogram one step at a time. Maybe it's you reprogram your water. Maybe you pour intention to your water. Every single time you take a glass of water, you pray into it, or you pour into it what you need, right? We've had conversations in the past about it is imperative to bring to the room what is missing, right? Bring to the elevator if you're absolutely frustrated and you're like, oh my gosh, this kid is like going bananas and he's just like everywhere. Blah, 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 blah. Bring to the table what is missing. Bring love, bring compassion, bring a thought process of thinking about what is underneath this. Maybe he was trapped in a car for 10 hours and they just got to the motel and he's been strapped in a car seat for this long, right? It could be your dog, just like me. It could be the dog in the house and the squeaky toy, and it's just like constant, like the squeaky toy. I was like, oh my gosh, Rowan, my daughter came home this weekend, which is an amazing, I love seeing them, and they bring their dog, and he is 2, and he had this squeaky toy. And I was like, oh my land, I can't wait to take the squeaky toy away. But then you get to think about what's underneath it. He was trying to get attention. He'd been in a car for 4 hours, right? Strapped into a car for 4 hours, and he had so much energy. He doesn't have a place to run. All of these things is underneath it, right? We were all doing our thing and no one was giving him attention. And so he was getting it. And for a minute, I was like, right? So what is underneath that frustration? And how can we reprogram it? How can we take the stimulus, break it down, recode it in our thoughts so that our response is completely different? This can absolutely go outward towards other humans, right? It absolutely will benefit and will create love and hope and generosity outward if you can decode the message before you respond, right? But what if we did this for ourselves? What if we took all of these emotions that we were feeling, right? All of this fear, and we transmuted it into something different. What is underneath? Why am I feeling this? Who else in my life shows up like this? Who else in my life feels like this? Who else in my family resonates with this feeling? And how do we work through this? How do I shift into belief in possibilities, right? I'm creating a new program, and it's all about changing your fear, your self-sabotage, your mindfulness into something completely unique and different, something that completely goes against our programming. If you've had trauma or emotional upheaval or been through narcissistic abuse, right? We get to shift and turn over that fear, that victim reality, that the world is going to end and nothing is going to go right for us and everything is out to get us, right? Which is really similar to a lot of the humans that I'm with right now and a lot of the conversations I'm having right now. It feels the same. Yucky, disappointed, scared, fearful feeling. So how do we replace that with love? Right? Maybe we hire a coach, maybe we take a program, maybe we connect to somebody that resonates with us. Maybe you can do it individually, right? Maybe you figure out where it came from and GEM is perfect for you, right? Generational emotional mapping, maybe we figure out where in our gene pool this came from and help them heal, therefore changing the code for ourselves as well. But we get to change the code. We're always going to have stimulus. We're always going to have we just don't have control of what happens in the world, right? The only thing we have control of is how we react to the world, what we sit in for the length of time we sit in it, right? And it is okay to feel the feels. There is no shame or blame in the feelings that we feel, because every single day I get to pivot and decode what is underneath my feelings, right? Decode of where am I sitting in when I don't want to get out of bed? Because sometimes getting out of bed is freaking hard. Sometimes showering is hard. Sometimes I shower 3 or 4 times a week. Maybe I shower 3 times a week, right? When I was really healing my leg, if I got to shower 3 times a week, that was a really good week, right? Because I was in a different mindset. I was a different frame of mind, and my goal or my vision into what I was creating was completely different. And sometimes we get to really lean into when you're lying in bed and it's such a struggle to get out, or it's such a struggle to put the workout clothes on, or it's such a struggle. What do you lean in on to change that? Because nothing that you're shifting into is comfortable. I'm not like, oh my gosh, I totally want to go to the gym today. I'm so excited to go to the gym every single day. If you can connect to the feeling of what that gym experience is going to do for you, that is what you get to stick with, right? That vision or that connection of that feeling, that energy vibration shifting, that decoding of, oh my God, I feel so much better now. That is pouring into you, right? And then when we can shift our energy, or we can flip that fear into love and compassion, and our vibration raises, we show up differently for other people as well. But again, in this conversation, is it absolutely freaking starts with us. It starts with you. We're human, right? And we're going to have feelings. And so when you are having a struggle, when it is all about the fear and the news is chaotic, right? The energy and the moon and all these things feel like they're out to get us. It is about decoding the message. Like, how do you do that? If you need help, I am totally here. And there's amazing humans in this community. I'm totally here. And I'm putting out a new program that completely reprograms your subconscious, completely, from start to finish. And it's amazing and it's beautiful, but it brings up this conversation that I had this morning, right? That it could be simple as water. We are 96% or 97% water. Are we drinking enough water, first of all, right? And then are we blessing the water that's going into our body? Are we blessing the bath that we're taking in the water, right? Are we asking the things that we're fueling our body with for it to do something for us, right? Are we trusting in the universe, or are we trying to control the outcome, right? Because when we try to control it, we're going to be disappointed, highly disappointed, in my experience, right? And I don't know, this really resonated with me. We do get to feel the feels, and so many feelings are feeling right now at a utmost highest level. Our cortisol levels are really high, and we're still going to be okay. Everything is going to work out the way it should be, and we don't have control. And so when we think about that, scary and fearful as that may be, and may seem right now, and you might be like, Shannon, shush. I get it. Because I am around humans that try to control everything every single day, and it doesn't seem to work out in the end. And we get full of frustration, fear, and things come out of our mouth that we don't necessarily mean or want to say, right? I see it every day around me, right? The decoding really matters, and that really came and struck me very, very fully this weekend, because I was talking to somebody regarding human design, and we have a beautiful human that does that in here. And it matters how we receive the code. It really does. What is open, what is what is closed, what's connected, what is not connected really matters in how we absorb the information and how we can encode or decode the information. And if we're wide open and we're full of empathy, and everything gets through and nothing is really transmuted. And that can be really scary. And that's where my kid is. My eldest kid is that way. And so another thing that came up for me this weekend is to come up in more compassion, to realize that everybody is unique and different. Not everybody feels the way you feel, right? Not everybody understands information the same way. I am such a visual learner. I get to visualize it and hear it at the same time. So me being somewhere, connecting to somewhere, or being at the conference, like in a couple of weeks, I'm going to leadership. I will learn so much more feeling it and being there visually than I would if I was watching it on the screen, right? But everybody is different and everybody is unique, and they have their unique gifts and their unique strengths. You're gifted amazing gifts, and we get to align with our own gifts and not compare ourselves to other humans, right? As soon as the comparison game starts, that's when we start feeling more fear, and more sadness and more shame and blame. And it needs to be everything is neutral. Every mistake, every fall down, every fearful day, every emotional upheaval day gets us to the next day. Gets us to the next day. Because we get a chance to learn from it. We get a chance to reframe. We get a chance to express ourselves, be vulnerable, and connect to somebody else, right? Every single day. I was listening to a podcast episode. My husband sent it to me and I was like, holy resonance. And I talked to somebody, I just messaged Amanda, and I get to share it again. I shared it a little bit to a couple humans yesterday, and it was like, what if I gave you $10,000? If I was going to give you $10,000 today, would you take it to do something for me? And they're like, yeah. What if I made that $10 million? And they're like, absolutely. Like, what would that do for your life? What would that do for your emotions? How would you feel? Would you be scared of paying your bills? Would you, all these things came up for them, right? It was really short. So it was like a 5-minute episode or 5-minute situation. But what if I said, if I was going to give you $10 million today, but you wouldn't wake up tomorrow, would you still take it? And the lady and the gentleman said, no, absolutely not. Every single day is a gift, and we get to act like it's a $10 million day, right? Because no one would trade $10 million for only one day in the world. No, only one extra day on earth, only one extra day to live with our family, to be in our business, to be connected to the humans that we call our tribe, right? So every single day gets to be a $10 million day. We get to try like hell to make it a $10 million day. And then the next day, the vision is to make today a $10 million day. How you connect, how you love, what you bring to the table, not necessarily creating $10 million. That would be amazing. I would take $10 million days all day long, because I could give so much more, right? I could gift so much more, right? But I think we forget, and we get so consumed into other things, or so consumed into the fear of the world, that we forget what our vision is. We forget what we're trying to create. And we're here trying to create, not trying. We're here creating a new paradigm. We're here creating a new world, a way of being, a way of showing up for ourselves, because it's for ourselves first. All right. That was my conversation today. It feels good. It feels good. Okay. Let me know if you have any questions in the chat. Let me know if you were here watching in real time. I love you guys. You're amazing humans. Know you are worthy of greatness, and every single day matters. And how you show up for other humans matters, just as how you show up for yourself. But show up for yourself first. Who you see in the mirror matters more than anything else. Okay? All right. Love you guys. Have an amazing day. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.